Okay, welcome to this week's SNES Divination. I am away from home, so due to technical limitations, I'm filming this on my phone. I hope it kind of works. This week's games are Dirt Racer, The Sporting News Baseball, ActRaiser, Rival Turf, UN Squadron, Miss Pac-Man, Theme Park, and Skyblazer. So, the most numinous out of the whole, or the one that caught my attention the most to begin with, was ActRaiser. Because we see, okay, so it says create order from chaos, and we see obviously the three pyramids being struck by like mega lightning. So what I thought was interesting about this, to begin with, is that, this is going to be complicated, the lightning motif appears at least 2 more times here. On the one hand, we have UN Squadron, which this guy has lightning bolts on his head. He has 2 lightning bolts, to be precise, hitting his crown. Then, at the same time, Skyblazer. It's hard to tell exactly because it's under the logo, but this is a lightning bolt, I think. So this guy is being struck by this lightning bolt. Okay. Well, a further connection between ActRaiser, which was the 3 pyramids, right? Here we get 3 identical villain guys. They have basically the same clothes, same face, everything, and they are all at the center of this lightning strike. It's almost as if the golden guy in the middle represents the lightning, or is more in attunement with it, but the 3 guys are being struck by it. So, in the same way that we had 3 pyramids being struck, here we have 3 guys who, furthermore, to echo the kind of Egyptian theme, are dressed in what seems to be a futuristic sort of sci-fi version of a pharaoh headdress. So, okay, that. Then, it's hard to know where to go from here. The next theme that I think is maybe clearer as an entry point is that of duality, which is simple enough. We have Dirt Racer with 2 cars, Rival Turf with these 2 guys, and UN Squadron, which has not only the 2 lightning bolts, but the 2 planes at either side of him. So, I mean, that is a fairly simple theme of duality, but I think there is something else. There is something else to this. Oh, and I almost forgot. Skyblazer has these 2, what do you call them? Like fires, torches. Yeah, torches lit at either side of the event. Now, God. What I think maybe can be gleaned from this as well is also that in this case, for example, in Dirt Racer, the 2 cars are identical, and in UN Squadron, the 2 planes are identical. So it's not just 2 things, but it's 2 things that are somehow the same thing. This, I feel, gets highlighted in Rival Turf because, and you can find better versions of this image online, because this is not going to be clear from the exposure of the camera and everything. But the guy on the left is wearing what seems to me to be a reddish colour t-shirt. The guy on the right is wearing a red coat. The guy on the left, black coat. Guy on the right, a red coat. And to finish it off, again, this is very difficult to see, but this guy is wearing a baseball cap, kind of the other way around, and it's a black baseball cap, and he's wearing a red bandana. So immediately they're in a complete sort of conjunction of opposites, sort of yin-yang mode to begin with. And it's funny because Jung already kind of gives some examples of these kind of characters in dreams, for example, where if the clothes are flip-flopped in this yin-yang way, it has a self-resonating vibe to it because it resonates precisely the one and the other united, sort of one being that is actually two beings, or a polarity together. Basically, what the clothes of these guys to me suggest is that they're not just two separate people, but that they are intimately connected at the core of their being. Okay. This theme, I think, connects with the lightning bolt thing, because Sky Blazer has this golden guy, which is, he's just sort of like made of, it looks like he's made of gold, basically. Sporting News Baseball has what seems to be a statue of a guy. This is clearly sort of like metal or gold as well, shining, of this baseball player. And it's, okay, it's complicated. So just these two on their own, as a golden person, to me that has a real sort of like eternal kind of person vibe to it. Osiris, or like they are not a body that perishes, but a body that is made of gold, therefore which persists eternally. So that in some way they are, some sort of a being that is eternal in some way. And in connection to last week's reading, where there was a theme of robots and metallic shells, it's also like their body is, again, it's not mere flesh, it's this sort of hard metallic thing to it. Here is where the reading, I think, begins to split off into many areas, which I will try to keep as neat and tidy as I can. But this is where I think the vehicles are relevant, because not only do we have this duality of the rival turf, but we have the duality of Dirt Racer, for example, where the two cars are also a yin-yang kind of thing, with red and yellow being, their identity, and they are the same. So it's as if they are two vehicles that are one, and they're vehicles made of metal. So they are, again, hard, like gold, or persistent. It's a persistent material. The same with the planes. Miss Pac-Man, I think, is very interesting in this regard, because if the other guys are golden-bodied, she is clearly also gold, or, this sort of yellow gold body. And therefore it opens the theme of, this is a man and she's a woman, or at least that's what it, it's what it seems to be. And yet the game is suggesting that the golden person here is a unity of two poles, right, like rival turf. Meaning that both the male and the feminine, the masculine and the feminine archetypes here are united in a hermetic kind of way. And so, another thing that makes me think that Miss Pac-Man is the same kind of golden person as the Skyblaze guy is, because of course that shouldn't necessarily be the case, is that she's surrounded by... Okay, I'm going to have to zoom in, because this, I think, deserves clarity. She's surrounded by 3 ghosts who are blue and pinkish, kind of purplish in tone. And she's in a maze, in a labyrinth, right? So she's surrounded by 3 purplish kind of ghosts. And this Skyblazer guy is also surrounded by 3 purplish kind of people. So, and of course, remember this, I think, ties, in my opinion, to the central image of the 3 pyramids being struck by lightning, which in itself is already like, I don't know, you could give many interpretations to it, Kundalini hitting the crown chakra, or anything you want to call it, but the last week's reading was all about, light rising, right? It was a glow rising. Here, it's more like the glow has become intense, and it's intensely piercing. It's much more lightning-like. So if last week's reading had something to do with light, meaning consciousness or awareness or something like that, I feel that something similar is happening here. This may take me to the next part of the reading, which is that the vehicles in these images, they're not just metallic and hard. They are vehicles, and as such, they are moving somewhere, right? A vehicle heads in a certain direction. There is a teleological kind of aspect to it. And I get the feeling that, for example, these 2 cars are going upwards. Again, it's just my intuitive sort of feeling with this image is that they're not so much descending as they're like in a high mountain plain kind of area, and they're going up. And remember, they're red and yellow, right? Red with a yellow stripe. This guy, of course, as well, also has a red and a yellow stripe design to it. And Theme Park has the same thing. It's a red vehicle with a yellow stripe, and it's going up. It's up in the sky, and it's ascending. Which, again, in a traditional mythological sense, would mean enlightenment, ascension, right, and connected to the lightning bolt itself. Of course, Miss Pac-Man is yellow and red as well. And then, of course, UN Squadron is already in the sky, so it's going up by default. Okay, so there's sort of a lot of stuff going on, basically, in this reading, I feel. And yet it's all very, very abstract kind of mythological content. I'll try and kind of describe it a little more as best as I can. So, well, I mean, essentially that seems to be it. It's just that it's a lot of images that are very kind of tightly connected into this way, to the lightning on UN Squadron's head, the lightning falling on the pyramids, the lightning falling on Skyblazer, and then in all of them there's this feeling of like duality being one, right? The 2 candles become one golden being, and this golden being seems to be a union between 2 separate beings. And I suppose the way this connects to the self, in my opinion, is that it's the ego and the other, the ego and the environment. Or not necessarily the ego, but just, yeah, the one and the other. And I think that's sort of why it is golden or eternal. It's because of this thing that if a point of identity is reached between yourself and the environment, or whatever is not yourself, whatever is other, then awareness or consciousness, in the case of the light here rising, would the rising of this, so it seems to describe a rising of light or an intensification of light, if we were to take this as being consciousness, and considering that it also seems to highlight going up into the sky, it would seem to me that it's somehow that the rising of consciousness is the becoming aware of the union between yourself and the shadow, between yourself and everything that is external to you, and that therefore what's eternal about this golden kind of union between the self and the other, the self as ego, I mean, is, I suppose, the fact that no matter how much decay and change there is in the world of matter, there is a union point of being between self and the other. There is a way in which the change of the material is in itself eternal, or something like that. I mean, I want to try and not speculate too much on this, because I want to kind of just focus on the images itself and the reading itself and see what it means to everyone. But I just wanted to maybe share what it meant to me at this moment. I also find it interesting that Miss Pac-Man is in a maze, but she seems to be kind of transcending the maze. She is standing above it, right? There is also an element of heightened consciousness from above the material world of samsara, again, through consciousness. So, yeah. I think, I hope this was visible. I would recommend maybe finding images of these games on Google Images and getting a better view of them. It's also interesting, of course, Rival Turf. We are standing below a building. Oh, damn it. Standing below a building and looking up towards this golden sky. So there is also a kind of a pyramidal feeling to this, in that we are looking upwards to the tip of a tall building, and this upwards glance is an upwards glance towards towards light, I suppose, towards the sort of big mandala at the top of the lightning, something like that. Yeah, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.